Hey everyone, Mr. DVB here. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing the 2021 live-action Mortal Kombat. Before I start this video, I want to quickly mention, or I guess apologize, I don't know, for the kind of poor lighting and video quality slash mic quality. I still don't have professional lighting, so poor ISO and whatnot on my camera is going to cause some noise and whatnot, and the microphone I'm using is just the one that I have attached to my camera, my shotgun mic. I'm not using my normal blue snowball microphone, so not the greatest quality. I apologize for that ahead of time. But anyways, we're reviewing Mortal Kombat in today's video. I'll start off with my thoughts on the video games very quickly. I'm not a huge fan of this franchise. I'm not really into fighting games in general, just not for me. I personally like more content that will kind of keep me engaged over a longer amount of time. I find that fighting games only are enjoyable for a certain amount of time and then they just get really repetitive. But anyways, those are my thoughts on fighting games in general. We're here to talk about Mortal Kombat, the movie. So, yeah, this was a very bad film. Not really shocking to me, but yeah, I found this to be a very, very bad movie. Going into it, I thought the marketing was very odd because we knew almost next to nothing about this film heading into its release. I think there was just one trailer, which was released a few weeks ago. So a very odd marketing strategy, in my opinion. And as far as the film itself goes, yeah, it's not great. The only people I think will actually really like this is diehard Mortal Kombat fans because it does have some good fights, and there are a couple of really awesome, gruesome, over-the-top fatalities. But even in that department, I thought the film was kind of lacking and a little bit underwhelming. But yeah, I'll start off with the positives first. I thought that the fight sequences in the movie were well handled for the most part. I didn't think all of them were great. The opening fight sequence is probably the best in the movie. There's one at the very end that I thought was really good as well. And then a few decent ones, throughout the movie. But I don't know, I didn't think they were necessarily, great from a choreography standpoint, which kind of surprised me just because of all the different actors they had who are normally, in a lot of fighting movies and whatnot. That aspect for me was a little bit of a letdown, the choreography at times. It wasn't always terrible, but like I said, I was expecting a bit higher quality, to be completely honest. The opening sequence, like I mentioned, is probably the highlight from a choreography slash fight sequence standpoint. And then the other thing I want to talk about for a second here was the CGI. And it was actually pretty decent in this movie, which sort of surprised me because I thought it was going to be really bad judging from the trailers. Like we saw Goro and he looked really, really bad in this movie. And that's not any different now that I've actually seen the film. The trailers didn't look good. He still doesn't look good here. But the rest of the CGI was actually pretty decent, in all honesty. There were some pretty good effects. There was this one lizard CGI creature that I thought looked pretty good. Some of the ice effects looked awesome, so there was definitely some redeeming quality there. And I talked about the fatalities. There was one in particular that was super over the top and reminded me a lot of the video games, so that one was pretty awesome. And that's pretty much where the good ends. Now we're going to talk about the bad. Right off the bat, this movie's story is not good at all. It's pretty terrible, which isn't necessarily a shock to me, and I know you shouldn't go into these movies expecting good writing or a good story, but it was honestly quite sad how poorly made this movie was from a storytelling standpoint. For people who aren't really super into the games like me, the story, I wouldn't say it was necessarily confusing, but they just did such minimal explanation. They kind of just rushed through everything. All of the sequences where they were trying to explain what Mortal Kombat was felt super rushed and almost out of place, because they would just be these really poorly written exposition scenes. And yeah, I just didn't think any of that was handled well. The pacing was terrible in this movie. It reminded me of Rise of Skywalker. It was so fast-paced. And normally, fast-paced can be a good thing, but like I said, this is comparable to Rise of Skywalker, where it's just going so fast that you don't really get any time to actually process what's going on in the movie, so they can just get to the next fight scene. And yeah, the pacing here just was not good. There was really no discernible 3-act structure to this film. Normally you can, there's kind of like the setup, some stuff happens in the middle, and then you have your big final battle sequence at the end. This movie wasn't really like that. There was the opening 10 minutes, which was like a scene set, hundreds of years ago. Then you kind of get introduced to your modern time characters. They have maybe like a 10-minute interaction or something like that, and then they head in straight to kind of like the final area of the movie where they train, and then they fight some bad guys, and the movie ends. And I was just really confused by that. It felt like, the second and third act were just kind of crushed into 1 hour-long block of film, which I thought was very weird. So yeah, the movie really just takes place in like a few locations, like maybe 2 different rooms in the last hour, which I thought was kind of odd. So that was something that I thought was just really poorly handled. The dialogue, like continuing with the writing, was bad in this movie. There was some humor that I just thought did not work. There was some that I liked. There was one character named Kano who was definitely used as the comedic service, and I thought that he worked like 50% of the time. Sometimes I thought they just went overboard with his comedy and he got kind of irritating. Other times there was like maybe a couple jokes that I did find kind of funny. One point in particular where he's training and he will jump over a person's leg, and something kind of funny happens in that scene that I thought was decent, and it gave me a good chuckle. But yeah, besides that, the humor didn't work for me. Whenever they would reference lines from the video games in the film, it was so fan servicey, it like in a very cringeworthy way. The lines just did not work. Like a character will get killed off, and then the other person will say "flawless victory," or you know, I don't know, Scorpion wins. It's just really cheesy.
Flawless victory.
And, you know, again, I think fans will like that kind of stuff, but for anybody else, it's just really, really awkward. The editing wasn't good in the movie either. This is something I don't know if a ton of people really comment about this. But, yeah, there was a lot of times where, for example, there's one sequence where a character is thrown. A female character is thrown by this one villain, and then we cut back to the villain using his laser eye to kind of cut this statue in half so that it'll fall on the lady. And rather than show her get thrown and then cut back to him, you know, like kind of powering up his laser and shooting it, she gets thrown and then we just cut to his laser already going. And it was a weird editing choice, and that's very consistent throughout this entire movie. It's like something will happen, we'll cut to the other character, and they're already midway through their action, and I just didn't think it was good from an editing standpoint. It felt like they were just missing a bunch of things or really rushing some of these sequences. And this is a really, really short movie. This is like an hour and 39 minutes, hour and 35 minutes without credits, which is really short, especially when you're introducing this many characters. And here's the thing, I know these characters aren't going to have a bunch of backstory, they can't do that for every character. They really only attempt it with, I guess, Scorpion and the main character we follow in modern days. Otherwise, everybody else was just kind of there. Some characters I felt like had barely any screen time whatsoever, like Jax, for example. I thought he was super underused. He does like one super short fight sequence towards the end of the movie, and that was kind of it. And yeah, just a weird film. Some sequences were only like 30 seconds. You'll have characters training, and then they fall over, and they get up, and then it cuts to them at a dinner table, and I was like, what? Like, that was such a short scene to just have in there for no reason. So yeah, lots of problems. I mean, from a filmmaking standpoint, I think this is a terrible movie. But, you know, it has some decent action and some cool kills, so I'm sure fans will enjoy it. And, you know, I'm fine with that, right? Like, it's definitely a movie for the fans. Fans will enjoy it. There's movies I like where, you know, people who aren't fans of what I enjoy will not like them, and so I understand that. Just for me personally, wasn't my kind of movie, didn't think it was a well-made film, besides the fact that I'm not really into the subject matter, so yeah. Those are my thoughts on the 2021 live-action Mortal Kombat. As far as 2021 movies go, this is the second worst film I've seen this year so far. The worst is the Tom and Jerry movie. That was atrocious. I did not do a review for it. I don't think I will bother doing a review. But if I do a you know, top 5 worst movies at the end of the year, you're gonna hear all about Tom and Jerry. So yeah. Anyways, those are my thoughts on Mortal Kombat. I'll see you guys next time. I don't really know what the next movie coming out that I'll talk about is. There's this one movie coming out on HBO Max with Angelina Jolie that looks pretty good, so I'll maybe talk about that, but that might be a short review unlike this. I don't know, we'll see. But until then, see you guys, and, I don't know, fatality. Mortal Kombat, the movie, does not win.